What's up? Ben Gretch here, editor-in-chief at Fantasy Insiders and on Twitter at YardsPerGretch. And I'm going to give you a quick look at 3 teams I covered for this week's Stealing Signals, my column where I dive into all 32 teams each week to look for the most actionable information you need to know before everyone else. First team up is the Titans, and one of the big things I like to look at is team volume in the Stealing Signals column. And with the Titans this week, with Blaine Gabbert at quarterback, they pulled out all the stops early on, ran a fake punt, got a long touchdown off that, and then went very, very run heavy. They had a 22 to 34 pass run ratio, which means they ran 12 times more than they passed. In one of the biggest passing weeks and biggest passing starts to a season in NFL history. So in that small passing sample, they only dropped back to pass 23 times. Corey Davis only got 7 targets a week after 14 in week 1, but he had similar weighted opportunity in the offense. He now ranks 5th in the league in weighted opportunity rating, Josh Hermsmeyer's stat that balances targets and air yards, team share of targets and air yards to show how dominant of a share a player has in their offense. And Corey Davis has one of the most dominant shares of the Titans' offense of any player in their own respective offenses in the league so far. Jonnu Smith, who will take over for Delaney Walker going forward, he played every single snap. He ran a route on 17 of the 23 dropbacks. He wasn't targeted, but this kind of weird game script, game flow with no Marcus Mariota, I think was a significant part of that. I do think Jonnu Smith is somebody who is a good long-term tight end investment. And then running the ball with all those carries, Derrick Henry only got 18 carries to Deion Lewis's 14, which is probably not the split you want to see if you're a Derrick Henry owner. Deion Lewis out-touched him in week 1 in negative script. And then when they had some plus script and they wanted to be run heavy, you would have thought that Derrick Henry would have got a lot more than a +4 ratio in terms of rush attempts last week. Moving over to the Rams, they are a team that has very concentrated opportunity in their offense, and that's another thing that I really like to look at. All 3 of their wide receivers have played snap shares of 97% or more in both weeks. Tyler Higbee, their tight end, has been at 89% or higher in both weeks. And Gurley was at 94% in week 1. He was banged up a little bit in week 2, and Malcolm Brown took over for him. But essentially, they're running that 11 personnel out there, those 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, and it's the same guys in that 11 personnel nearly every offensive snap of the game. And that's a hugely important point for fantasy, because we're looking at obviously statistics, but when you don't have guys rotating in and stealing some additional targets or additional opportunity share, the opportunity that can flow through those main guys obviously goes up. And for a team like the Rams, where you have 3 different receivers, it's hard to know which of the 3 to use. The easy thing to think is, well, this guy's the wide receiver 1 or not the wide receiver 1. Rather, he's just he's the 2nd or 3rd or 4th option in this offense. But when an offense is this concentrated, it doesn't really matter if you're the 3rd or 4th option. And to be clear, Tyler Higbee isn't actually seeing any targets. So there really is only 4 options in this entire offense. The entire passing game flows through the receivers and Gurley gets all the carries, other than in week 2 when he missed some time. He has 8 targets, Todd Gurley. The wide receivers all have between 16 and 18, and no one else on the team has more than 3 targets on the season. In fact, the rest of the team combined has just 7 targets. So Higbee did catch a week 2 touchdown, but pretty much irrelevant, just kind of a variance thing. But all the wide receivers are very good plays going forward, particularly Robert Woods, who is a guy who has had essentially the same opportunities as Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks has been a smash hit on his new team. Woods hasn't necessarily been as efficient. Jared Goff missed him for a wide open touchdown last week. I expect him to have some big games coming forward, and he's a big buy low target for me. And the third team I want to touch on real quick is the Saints, another concentration statistic to look at. Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas have combined for 69% of the team's skill position PPR points, which means all the different receptions and rush attempts and touchdowns other than the quarterback. They have combined for 69% of that. They have been extremely dominant in their grasp of the entire offense and the points that are in the offense. For reference, last year, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell led the league in this statistic for Pittsburgh, and they were at 53%. So 69% is an extremely high number, especially because the Saints had a ton of production in week 1. You would have thought that would have went to a few more names in the offense, but they scored 4 of the 5 touchdowns in week 1. They scored both of the touchdowns in week 2. Ted Ginn and Ben Watson are both involved, and then pretty much no one else is. In week 2, Ginn had 7 targets. Watson had 5. No one else had more than 1. And those guys are operating behind Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, who are the clear top two guys. The significance of that for me is that it says to me that even though the Saints brought in a lot of guys this offseason, they still very much see their 2017 script as kind of the one they want to mirror. And that was they were very concentrated last year between three guys, and that was Kamara, Mark Ingram, and Michael Thomas. And now this year it's been all about Kamara and Thomas. I don't think they can keep that up all year, but what I do think is that Mark Ingram is a really good buy low, because I think he's going to slide into a pretty significant opportunity share, considering that no one else in this offense is really doing that much. So that's all I got on those three teams. I go through every week all 32 teams and look at the teams like through a similar lens and try to identify similar buy low targets, sell high targets, players with undervalued roles that we haven't seen a whole lot of. All sorts of great stuff for all 32 teams, so be sure to check out the article. Thanks for watching.